You check your bank account before you fall asleep. Just a quick glance. You tell yourself it's responsible. But the number never seems to grow the way you hoped, and you put the phone down feeling a little smaller than before. Here's what nobody told you. The people who get rich rarely look like the ones chasing it. They don't grind harder. They don't think about money more than you do. The real answer is far stranger than effort or luck. It's a glitch. A pattern hiding inside your own mind, waiting to be triggered, or never triggered at all. You were taught that wealth comes from working hard, saving diligently, and making smart choices. Sounds reasonable. It's also incomplete. Most people who accumulate real wealth don't decide to become rich. They become rich almost by accident, because of a few invisible mechanisms quietly running in the background of an ordinary life. Let's start with your brain's most basic flaw. It cannot feel the future. Psychologist Hal Hershfield ran an experiment using brain scans. He showed people images of their current selves and aged versions of themselves, 30 years older. Then he watched their brain activity. When people thought about their future selves, the regions tied to identity barely activated. To your own neurons, future you looks like a stranger, a person you don't know, someone whose needs feel optional compared to your own. Right now, today. That single fact explains almost everything about why most people stay broke, and a few people don't. If your future self feels like a stranger, why would you hand over money for them? Spending today feels real. Saving for tomorrow feels like giving cash to someone you've never met, who might not even show up to collect it. But here's the twist. The people who quietly accumulate wealth aren't more disciplined. They're not winning a daily battle of willpower against impulse. Most of them removed the battle entirely. They built automatic systems, automatic transfers, automatic investing, automatic saving, so the decision only had to be made once. After that, their future self got paid without anyone arguing about it. This is the part almost nobody tells you. Wealth isn't usually built through decisions. It's built through the removal of decisions. Economist Richard Thaler spent decades studying exactly this. He called it the architecture of choice. People don't act the way classic economic models predict, calm, rational, optimizing every dollar. They act like humans, distracted, emotional, biased toward whatever feels good right now. So Thaler designed systems that worked with human nature instead of against it. One of his most famous ideas, called Save More Tomorrow, automatically increased a person's retirement savings rate every time they got a raise, without ever asking them to feel the pain of giving anything up today. The results were staggering. Employees using this system saved nearly 4 times more over several years compared to people who had to manually decide to save more each time. They didn't try harder. The system simply made saving the default instead of a choice they had to keep making over and over, against their own instincts. Think about how strange that is. The difference between staying paycheck to paycheck and slowly becoming wealthy often wasn't intelligence. It wasn't motivation. It was the order in which money touched their hands before they had a chance to feel anything about it. Now here's where it gets even stranger. Why does spending feel so much louder than saving? Daniel Kahneman, the psychologist who helped found modern behavioral economics, discovered something called loss aversion. Losing something hurts roughly twice as much as gaining the same amount feels good. A $10 loss stings harder than a $10 gain delights you. This single bias quietly shapes nearly every money decision you'll ever make, often without your awareness. It explains why people hold falling investments too long, hoping to avoid the pain of locking in a loss. It explains why so many people avoid investing altogether, because the fear of losing money outweighs the appeal of growing it. And it explains something counterintuitive about the people who accidentally build wealth. Many of them don't watch their accounts closely at all. They invest, then look away. Not because they're unusually calm, because looking away protects them from a bias that would otherwise sabotage their own progress. Isn't that strange? For many people, The path to wealth wasn't paying more attention to money, it was paying less. Researcher Thomas Stanley spent years interviewing actual millionaires for his studies on how wealth really accumulates. He expected sports cars, designer suits, lavish homes with circular driveways. Instead, he found something almost boring. Most of the wealthy people he studied lived well below their visible means. They drove ordinary cars, often for a decade or more. They lived in modest homes in unremarkable neighborhoods. Many of them weren't doctors or executives at all. They ran landscaping companies. They owned small hardware stores. They taught high school and simply never increased their spending as their income slowly grew. The pattern wasn't talent. It was a gap, a quiet, consistent gap between what they earned and what they spent, repeated for years, almost invisibly, until something else took over and did the rest of the work for them. That something else is compounding, and it doesn't reward intensity. It rewards time left alone. A modest amount of money, untouched for 30 years, can grow larger than a much bigger sum saved aggressively for only 5. Compounding doesn't care how hard you tried. It only cares how long you didn't interfere. So why does this feel so unnatural? Why does waiting feel almost impossible? Because your ancestors were never built for delayed, compounding rewards. For most of human history, resources spoiled. Meat rotted. Shelter was unpredictable. Seasons turned without warning, and what you didn't use today might be gone or stolen or spoiled by tomorrow. The brain that kept your ancestors alive was built to grab value now, before it disappeared. That same wiring still runs quietly inside you today, except now it's pointed at a glowing bank balance instead of a piece of meat over a fire. Which means the real obstacle to wealth was probably never math. You already know, somewhere in the back of your mind, that saving and investing works. The obstacle is a nervous system still operating on rules designed for a world that no longer exists, one where waiting was dangerous and grabbing was survival. You can see this ancient wiring everywhere in modern life if you know where to look. The one-click checkout button exists because waiting even 3 extra seconds reduces the chance you'll buy. The subscription that renews automatically counts on the same blind spot that makes saving automatically work in your favor. The algorithm feeding you short videos late at night is exploiting the exact same hunger for instant reward that once kept your ancestors alive. The mechanisms are identical, only the direction has changed, and whether that direction works for you or against you depends entirely on which side of the system you happen to be standing on. So what actually separates people who build wealth from people who don't? It's rarely income. It's rarely intelligence. It's the size of the gap between what comes in and what goes out, multiplied by how long that gap stays untouched, repeated long enough that it stops feeling like a choice and starts feeling like identity. Most people who become wealthy can't even fully explain how it happened when you ask them directly. They didn't experience one dramatic moment of financial enlightenment. They built one small structural habit, an automatic transfer, a refusal to upgrade their lifestyle every time their income rose a little, a quiet decision to simply not check the account too often, and then time did the heavy lifting they had assumed effort would have to do. You check your bank account before you fall asleep. Tonight, maybe you'll notice something different. The number was never the real story. The system quietly running behind it, built or left unbuilt years ago, was the story all along.